I now give you the floor to talk about the Raiders versus Vikings shootout that occurred yesterday. A whopping 0-3. Um,
Yeah. I honestly, you can keep the comments up. I'm gonna just I took notes. I mean, for starters, this game. Thank you, Anthony. I love it. This game was on Fox at the same exact time as the Niners game, and being that we live in the Bay Area, we did not get the Raider game. But luckily, there are what would you call it? Subscriptions that you can subscribe to, like NFL Plus, where you can watch the game afterwards. So last night, before bed, I watched the condensed version of the Raider game, the entire game, and I took some notes. So I am going to get into those notes. And as Josh said, I kindly ask for the floor. We will definitely talk about it once I'm done. It should be pretty extensive. This should feel like you have watched the game after hearing me. So, to answer Jose,
yeah.
the final score in this absolute shootout, this absolute offensive showcase, was 3-0 Vikings. So
There
I
is a
didn't
follow-up
miss much.
question.
Yeah.
So Pia's dad wants to know, why do you feel the score was 0-0 for so long?
Well, I mean, I sarcastically said that it was an offensive showcase, but really, I think this game was a defensive showcase, honestly. And listen, you can go back to Anthony's comment about Aiden O'Connell stinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think yes, they are. Well, most of them. I think that Aiden O'Connell is a rookie, and he was drafted to develop under Josh McDaniel's scheme, and he was not supposed to be starting games this season. Only if Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, which everybody expected apparently other than Josh McDaniels, and if Brian Hoyer sucked that bad, which, oh, by the way, he does. So here we are, right? We're starting a rookie, and I know I said like last week, like, the Raiders, you can give the excuse or whatnot of, hey, they're starting a rookie quarterback, and he was their third stringer to start the season, and your response was, well, actually, he's the best quarterback on the roster. Yeah, and that's not a very high bar at all. Clearly. Like, he had a good game 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, and it obviously wasn't enough to beat them for reasons not just towards him. But this week, man, not good. Not good. Stink is a good word to put it. Struggle. But really, at the end of the day, for me, it's like it's a collective effort. It's not just him. He's a rookie, but he needs help to be prepared for these games. That is towards the coaching staff, namely Bo Hardigree, right? He was the quarterback's coach before becoming the offensive coordinator. I've given him some leeway or whatever you want to call it because he's a rookie offensive coordinator, but you have to be able to get this offense ready, and you have to be able to make mid-game adjustments to go out there and potentially win games. And against the Giants and the Jets, you can do that. Cool. But against these other teams, you're having struggles. It's like, come on, So I'm just going to get into the game, and I'm going to probably cover everything as I go. So
you want me to pull up the tweets as you're sort of
just kind of keep them on the screen for a long time because this should take me a little while. Keep them on the screen like at least a minute or two each, and then just keep going as we go. Once you get towards the bottom, though, there's one about the Niners. Don't put that one up.
Okay.
Yada yada. I'm not going to read it. Anybody viewing this can see what it is, but these are pretty good tweets. So I'm just going to start with the first quarter. Vikings Raiders. The Raiders started with the ball. First off, I predicted the Raiders would win this game. We both did, and my prediction was as long as Max Crosby plays, I picked the Raiders to win. I didn't even consider Colton Miller. Didn't even consider him, and Colton Miller did not play in this game. And honestly, I think that had I known that, or had I had a thought towards that in the back of my head, I would probably consider that, you know. But I didn't think of it, and I think with Danielle Hunter on the other side, that's a big deal, right? But Colton Miller was out, predicted the Raiders to win, what have you. Thayer Munford was the starting left tackle, not Jermaine Illuminor. Illuminor stayed at right tackle. That is where he's comfortable. I know a couple weeks ago when Colton Miller was out, I think Illuminor was at left tackle and Munford at the right side. Clearly, they switched some things up this week. So, just to start, Raiders' offense was moving nicely down the field. They get down to a 4th and 1, and they convert it. They go for it. They convert it on a QB sneak. There was a nice, healthy mix of Josh Jacobs and then some nice, well-designed pass plays, like usual, to start games for this offense. But the first possession stalled after a penalty pushed them back to 2nd and long, followed by a sack due to great coverage by the Vikings, as well as O'Connell's inability to be mobile in the pocket. He's a rookie. He might be less mobile than Joe Flacco. I'm not even joking. Like, that is not even a joke. Like, you would think that it is, but it's genuinely not. Like, it has the slowest feet I've ever seen for a quarterback. Derek Carr looks like Steve Young compared to him. Not in performance, but in mobility. You know what I mean? Aiden O'Connell is not a mobile quarterback.
He's got to unhitch the trailer.
The Raiders punt. Yeah. So the Raiders punt. Vikings' first drive was a 3-and-out. Jack Jones had a great pass breakup that was nearly a pick six on a 2nd down target to Justin Jefferson. And then on the next play was a beautifully designed and executed blitz by Robert Spillane, or a stunt, what have you, which led to a Tyree Wilson sack of Joshua Dobbs. Wilson just pushed the right guard backwards. And you might ask yourself, wait. Right guard? Tyree Wilson's a defensive end. That's what he was drafted to be, right? Well, there were many plays in this game where Tyree Wilson was lined up on the inside. And this has been something that I've been kind of thinking about, like with his length and very great frame. He could potentially be a good option on the interior pass rush. So I'd say this is something to keep an eye on with him, because this team is in great need of an interior pass rusher. So I mean, he can line up on the edge on 1st and 2nd down, but then slide him inside on 3rd down and have Malcolm Kuntz come in. And speaking of Malcolm Kuntz, I mean, he's having a great season rushing the passer this year, and really has earned more snaps, I would say. So get your best pass rushers on the field when you can, especially on 3rd down, right? Anyway, second offensive drive. Well, Vikings punt, Raiders get the ball. Second offensive drive leads immediately to another 4th and 1 conversion, which the Raiders go for and convert with a handoff to Jacobs up the middle. But O'Connell didn't look good on this drive. Starts it off by passing behind Devontae Adams on a slant that should have been easy, incomplete. Follows that up with an intentional grounding penalty after a 4th down conversion. Then he has trouble with the play clock on back-to-back
There's trouble
plays.
with the what?
With the play what?
The play
With the
what?
play clock on back-to-back plays, which leads to a punt. And then the second possession for the Vikings, Max Crosby with a nice tackle for loss. Josh Jobs, after getting some pressure on the initial third down, is able to scramble for an easy first down. Mobile quarterback. This is something that the Raiders do not have, and I would say are missing on offense. Not that they've ever really had it to begin with, but something that they should look into potentially getting. I'm hoping that can change. Alexander Madison breaks some nice tackles, breaks some tackles. They were not nice because they didn't make the tackle. And then this leads us into the second quarter, which started off with an amazing sack by Janarius Robinson, who beats the fullback one-on-one to get Dobbs from behind. You might be wondering who Janarius Robinson is. He's been on the Raiders practice squad since the beginning of this season. He was elevated to the active roster November 25th for the Chiefs game, and then officially signed to the active roster on December 5th for this game. He actually, first off, he had quite a few plays versus the Vikings, rotating with many other pass rushers. And funny enough, he was a fourth-round pick for the Vikings back in 2021. He ended up on the Vikings practice squad and made his way to the Eagles in 22 when he was claimed off the practice squad for the Vikings. And then in August of 2023, the Eagles waived him, and 2 days later, this would be this season, early this season, before the season started, the Raiders picked him up and put him on the practice squad. Now he's here. He's on the active roster and, making plays. So he'll be a player I'll keep an eye on the rest of these weeks, see if he's worth sticking around. But the fact that he's getting playing time tells me that he must be looking good on the practice field and that coaches want to see him with real NFL snaps. Second and 19, Marcus Epps has great anticipation and gets a great pass breakup on an attempt for TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson was a guy that I was worried about in this game. He was held to 0 catches in the first half. This is a guy who's been a world beater, weeks leading up to this. So something was done very well in that regard. And then third and 19, Max Crosby beats the right tackle for a sack. Another punt. Raiders' third drive. Short run, sack. Daniel Hunter beats Andre James. DJ Wanham comes in for the cleanup and gets the sack. Punt. Vikings get a quick first down. Dobbs beats the blitzing pressure. Finds Justin Jefferson near the sideline against Amik Robertson. A play or two later, Dobbs targets Jefferson again, and he's given a hospital ball where Marcus Epps just absolutely lays the boom on Justin Jefferson, and he was knocked out of the game, out for the rest of the way. Obviously, I'll pause just for a second here. What we're looking at here is a comparison for Tyree Wilson to DeForest Buckner. I'm not going to say that he will ever be close to DeForest Buckner, but imagine if he were to bulk up to 290 pounds. Right now he's around, I think, 270, maybe 270. I mean, he has the measurables and the frame. If you could get him to that size, he could be the missing link at defensive tackle that I've been hoping and wishing for all this time. And if Malcolm Kuntz keeps it up, re-sign him in a year from now, and you have your pass rush.
Dude, DeForest Buckner's hands are massive.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely noticed when I looked at this.
His hands are almost a foot long.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, what?
Jesus Christ.
But back to the game. Third down, Dobbs scrambles again, but Divine Diablo gets a stop. And then on 4th and 2, Dobbs finds KJ Osborne on the crosser for a first down. After another first down on a run, second down, Malcolm Kuntz gets a big pressure and a hit on Dobbs, but he's able to somehow get a pass off towards Hawkinson deep down the sideline. But Trevon Merrick was there in coverage to disrupt the pass.
Can I put up this tweet?
That's what it looks like. That's what it literally looks like it. Yes.
O'Connell has cement in his shoes.
Yeah, it looks like he has weights or he has magnets that specifically gravitate towards grass. So honestly,
after you're done with your notes, Mike, I do have a couple questions I want to ask you.
yeah, definitely. I was gonna say like definitely work up the questions, absolutely. So Vikings go down, they miss a field goal. So it could have been 3-0 in the second quarter, but it wasn't. Raiders get the ball on their fourth drive. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and then on 3rd and 1, incomplete to Renfro. Punt. And then finally the Vikings get the ball again. Nate Hobbs gets a nice pass defended on 2nd down. Defense gets a 3rd down penalty, which gives the Vikings new life. Madison moves the ball down the field a bit, 3rd and 3. Max Crosby with another sack, beating the right tackle again. And I believe I read that the most sacks a Raider has ever had in one season was 16. Crosby has 13.5 on the season, and we have 4 weeks to go. He also has 18 tackles for loss, which is tied for first in the NFL with Danielle Hunter. It's possible that Danielle Hunter got another tackle for loss or a couple more than Crosby in this game, but I don't know. If I'm being honest, I'll get to the stats later, but I have a gut feeling that Crosby's leading the league in tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm. I pulled up Anthony's comment because I had it starred, and it really ties in with the tweet that I have on the screen right now from a sorry Raider fan named Michael. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Actually, can you click on the Mo Moten tweet because it has more context that is very important here. So the first off, Sonny Days tweets here, getting rid of him, I'm assuming Antonio Pierce, means getting rid of Patrick Graham, probably. Definitely something to think about. And this has been something I've said is my worry is that the Raiders let Antonio Pierce go, bring in a new coach or a new GM who decides, I want my staff, and they let go of Patrick Graham. That is not what I want. I want Patrick Graham to stay because he's the one glimmer of hope who's actually making a difference for this team other than certain players. He has built this defense over the past 2 seasons to something that is literally I just saw this a couple hours ago. The Raiders are now a top 10 scoring defense in the NFL. They are the 9th scoring defense in the NFL. You want to get rid of him? I don't. Because all my life as a Raider fan, all I've known is dog shit on defense for the Raiders. All I've known is Derek Carr and the offense with a good passing game, maybe a good running game here and there, trying their hardest to carry the 28th, the 29th, the 32nd ranked defense in the league and missing the playoffs, 8 wins, 6 wins, right? And then rebuild. Don't rebuild this. It's finally working. They're finally keeping themselves in games. Okay, Josh Dobbs is a backup. Yeah, the Giants, they're not, and the Jets backup, right? But like other games, the Lions game, the Chiefs game, the defense is keeping them in it, even when they lose.
Well, Josh Dobbs did get benched in the game, right?
He did get benched at the end of this game, yes. But can you blame either team for benching their quarterback when the game is 0-0? I mean, it would make more sense if it was like 0-21 or something, but still, it's like these offenses were not getting it done. But obviously here with Mo Moten's tweet, he says, not necessarily for getting rid of Patrick Graham if you get rid of Pierce. The Colts kept Gus Bradley. This was a year ago after they got rid of Frank Reich, or maybe 2 years ago, and Jeff Saturday and hired Shane Steichen. Steichen is obviously an offensive-minded coach. It's all up to the head coach, or I would say in this case the GM as well, but it's probably up to the head coach who he wants on his staff. If I'm a head coach candidate, seeing the way the Raiders defense is playing right now, I'd retain Patrick Graham. And I completely agree with Mo Moten here. Let the defense continue to grow with him and his scheme. I mean, that's the thing, as I said, like, you bring in a new defensive coordinator that has a different scheme. It's like, oh, now Trevon Verick, he doesn't fit. Tyree Wilson doesn't fit at all. His frame makes no sense to us on this defense. Robert Spillane, absolute nobody. He doesn't fit. With this defense, those guys are doing good. Tyree Wilson's finally getting it going. I think you give him a full offseason, let him bulk up, perhaps aim for 290. Yeah, he might break out next season. I certainly hope so, because we need that. But I am big on keeping Patrick Graham. He is absolutely the one thing that is good on this team, other than Max Crosby and certain players. As far as the coaching staff goes, yes, he's the one good thing. I would also say Edgar Bennett, the wide receiver coach, is a great coach. I'd even argue Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, has done a hell of a job. But yeah, Patrick Graham, I am very big on keeping him. So, but back to Crosby, 18 tackles for loss, at least at coming into this game, and then 13.5 sacks, which is actually third in the league as of 2 p.m. On Sunday. So somebody, Micah Parsons, whoever might have passed him up. But back to the game. The Vikings punt the ball, and the Raiders have 1 minute and 2 seconds left to play in the half, with only one timeout. Starting on the 10-yard line after the punt. Not ideal to go get a score, right? O'Connell gets the offense past the 40-yard line, but ends the half on a sack. But quick note, I'm curious how many first and second halves have gotten down to the 2-minute drill with less than 2 timeouts under Antonio Pierce. Because I feel like it's been many times. I'm not the biggest fan of the offense's ability to manage the clock under Antonio Pierce. Really just his decision-making with timeouts and what have you. So, because, I mean, 1 minute left. If you have all 3 timeouts, I mean, Aiden O'Connell was able to get them 30 yards downfield. Maybe with 2 more timeouts, you can go get a field goal. Maybe this isn't a loss, right? So third quarter, Vikings get the ball first. Spillane comes in on fourth play of the drive, unblocked on the blitz, gets the first down sack on Dobbs. Just perfectly timed by Spillane. He's just been having a hell of a season. A few incompletions lead to a Vikings punt, third down for the Raiders offense. O'Connell finds Hunter Renfrow for a big 38-yard gain. And the Raiders find themselves on the Vikings' 11-yard line. We are in the red zone. Dylan Parham gets a big holding penalty on second down, and on the very next play, Hunter Renfrow gets a pass, and a fumble is forced, and the Vikings get the ball. So they go from being in the red zone, big 38-yard play, first offensive drive, right, on offense in the third quarter. We're going to score. Turnover. So Vikings get the ball. Hawkinson gets his first catch of the game in the third quarter. The Vikings move down the field a little bit, get a few first downs. Finally, Tyree Wilson gets a tackle for loss, and then followed by that is Malcolm Coots getting a pressure, leading to a third down throwaway from Josh Dobbs. Another punt. Raiders get a few positive plays in on the next drive, leading to a 3rd and 5. O'Connell has a bunch of time to throw and finds Trey Tucker downfield for a big sideline grab, maybe 20 yards downfield. But, of course, this has been a recurring theme with Trey Tucker. He bobbled the pass as he was going out of bounds untouched, and it's ruled incomplete. Another punt. Move on to the fourth quarter. Vikings convert a 3rd and 2 with another Josh Dobbs scramble. Again, quarterback scrambling. I love seeing that when it's on my team, but I never really get to see it. Next play, false start. Amik Robertson gets a nice pass breakup on second down, 3rd and 15. Dobbs stopped on a 2-yard gain, tripped up by Malcolm Kuntz. Again, I loved what I saw from Malcolm Kuntz in this game. Another punt, a few short yardage plays for the Raiders, 3rd and 4. Michael Mayer is targeted, attempts to catch the pass. He has it in his hands, everything. It's going to be caught. We're good to go. He starts to turn forward to move upfield. Vikings defender just punches it right out. Beautifully, perfectly punches it. Didn't make a football move, incomplete pass. We're punting again. And on this punt, the best punter in the league proved why I consider him to be the best punter in the league with an 83-yard punt. He was punting from like the 11-yard line. It literally was a touchback.
You're referring to A.J. Cole?
A.J. Cole, that is correct. Fourth longest punt in the NFL since 2000, and the longest punt in Raiders history, passing an 80-yard punt made by Shane Lechler. This punt was so close to being stopped on the 1-yard line. Whoever the gunner was on this play, he got tripped up. He was trying to dive and get the ball before it went in the end zone, but it just barely rolls in. It was almost literally a perfect punt. It couldn't have gone better. It bounced over the return man and just kept going and going to the end zone. It was awesome. Best play, really, the punter, the best play of the game for the Raiders.
Yeah. Did we lose you? Oh my God. All right. Mike, that's impeccable timing. Mike's like, best play of the game for the Raiders was the punt. And Mike's internet just cut out. He'll be back in a second. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up showing some of the tweets that Mike wanted me to put up. So over here from Tristan Kuhn, he says the way to fix the Raiders is to hire a legitimate head coach. Frank Smith should be called the minute Mark Davis can. Let Champ Kelly pick his head coach and GM. Let him pick his head coach as he is the GM. I got confused there for a second because I was like, how can he pick a GM when he is the GM? Draft a first-round quarterback. I agree the Raiders do need a first-round talent at quarterback. Two guys I would look into would be Caleb Williams and probably Drake May. Those would be where I would look into first. I know I've said before that I don't know if Caleb Williams' talents can, I guess, translate directly to the NFL, but, we'll see. Add 1 to 2 interior linemen. I'm assuming this is offensive linemen because I think the Raiders absolutely need to bulk up on that offensive line. When the Raiders were good in 2016, they had a hell of an offensive line. They had, I want to say Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson. They were pretty stacked on that offensive line. Still waiting for Mike to get back in here. They have to add a corner. Yeah, especially after letting go of Marcus Peters and the fact that didn't work out. Add a defensive tackle. I kind of like what the Raiders are doing in that they're mixing in Crosby inside and moving Tyree Wilson also inside, sort of switching up the looks to, I guess, keep the offensive line on their toes because, if you're getting similar reps against, the same players all game, you start to figure them out, over the course of a game. And, just as my experience of playing when I played offensive line in high school, I know that a guy like Max Crosby would absolutely, give me the most trouble because he's got long arms, he's quick. And the more that you get Crosby against guys that aren't figuring him out, I think the better. If you can swap them to opposite sides, or if you want to, switch up the looks, I don't think it hurts at all. And then we've got adding or involve Michael Mayer more. I do agree that the Raiders should absolutely be trying to get him going. Um, let's see. Is Mike? Mike texted me. He said he's restarting his computer. His laptop shut down on him. Apparently, wasn't charging. If anybody has any comments, I can put it up on the screen. If not, I'll just keep going through the tweets that Mike sent me. So we looked past an opponent when we are 5-7. WTF? Raiders are started planning. Oh, all right. This is big. I don't know how credible this is, but if the Raiders were already planning for the Chargers before they were even playing the Vikings, we've talked about like the cliche. I mean, it is kind of a cliche, but like you absolutely want to be focusing on one game, at a time. And I don't know if you're necessarily doing yourself a service to beat the Vikings if you're already planning to prepare against the Chargers. Like I understand that the Chargers game, like I mean the Raiders were coming off a bye week, so they had that extra week to prepare. But the Raiders are I guess they were sort of in a mode where it's like you have to win now if you want any sort of shot to if you want any sort of shot to make the playoffs. The Raiders sort of had to win a majority of their remaining games to at least be in the picture. And then right now it seems like the Raiders are out. And then also too, all that preparation that went into the Chargers. If it is true that the Raiders truly did start planning against the Chargers, well, all that preparation that you did is just sort of out the window now because I mean, Justin Herbert probably is not going to play on Thursday night. And if Herbert doesn't play on Thursday night, all that preparation that went into probably stopping Justin Herbert because he's their best player, I mean, now you have to prepare for Easton Stick's skill set. And we'll talk about that in a minute when Mike logs back in and we can preview the Chargers game. But yeah, I think that's ridiculous. And, Mike put up a tweet earlier about, the fact that Antonio Pierce still has an opportunity to win this job. I don't know. I think it's starting to come out like that he's just not experienced enough or, hasn't had his plan thorough enough to be the head coach to be a head coach yet in the NFL. He absolutely can be an assistant coach, but I think he needs a little bit more experience with, game time decisions, preparation, all that stuff. And, it's not easy because he was handed the job or not handed the job. I guess you can kind of say that he earned it, but, he was put in a position where he had to take over a team that was like, sort of collapsing in on itself with Josh McDaniels. And, he sort of had to bring in a new energy into the locker room. And right now, I did say a couple weeks ago, it's a very slippery slope. It's very dangerous long term to just like have the team sort of running itself. You need that person in power. And, if you can't get your guys in line and can't get your guys like under control, I don't know. I just don't see that as a sustainable way to operate an NFL team. So I kind of disagree. I'll pull that tweet back up, but Mike said that Antonio Pierce still has time to earn or lose the head coaching position. I think if Mark Davis was a smart owner, he would look for. I've been saying it for the longest time. Jim Harbaugh is the guy that you want, and I understand that Patrick Graham, is a good defensive coordinator. The Raiders defense is finally playing well, for like the first time since God knows how long. I think that there are still if Harbaugh can come in and, sort of set order in this locker room, and then you're able to have Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator still, I think that's the best of both worlds, and I'm sure Mike might agree, but I don't know, Mike's a little hesitant on the whole Harbaugh train, and he sent me a tweet, like, a couple days ago, that I think it was from Ian Rappaport, that was, like, something pretty interesting was that I guess the negotiations have kinda stalled a little bit between Harbaugh and Michigan, and, Harbaugh is looking for north of 11, like, I think the offer currently as it sits right now is about 11 million per year, and Mike's super hesitant to, give another coach, like, I th Mike thinks that that was more than what John Gruden was making, and I think he might be right, um but I tell you, I think Jim Harbaugh is worth it. He gets results everywhere he goes, and I think he absolutely knows about, a thing or two about at least developing a quarterback. And the fact that you would give him sort of a premium draft pick, maybe there is a quarterback in the draft that he absolutely wants on his team. Um, I'm trying to think of the name of the Michigan quarterback. Maybe he could even bring him along too, but I'm not sure how that would translate to the NFL. There's always there's the transition period for, players that are going from, college football to the NFL, and that's what makes or breaks their career. Like, we see guys all the time that are they're successful within a certain program in college, and then for whatever reason in the NFL, whether it be outside influence, whether it be the system that they were drafted in, it just does not work out. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving along with this last tweet that Mike sent me. All right, comeback complete. Free agent offensive lineman DJ Fluker signing with the Raiders following last week's workout. His agent tells Jordan Schultz, the former first-round pick has lost about 50 pounds and is in the best shape of his life. I'm not going to lie. I don't know a lot about this player. He sounds familiar, but that's because the Niners play the Seahawks, twice a year. But Jordan Schultz also adds, new Raiders offensive lineman DJ Fluker revamped his entire training regimen to incorporate strength training, cardio, and clean eating to lose 50 pounds. It's a great example of perseverance and self-belief. Now he's back in the NFL and back with the silver and black. Okay, so he was with the Raiders before? Or are they just signifying that, since he's back in the NFL, he will now be with the silver and black? I don't know.
Okay, well then I'm just going to act like nothing happened, even though I'm kind of livid right now.
Hmm.
So the Vikings get the ball. First and second down. Max Crosby is lined up at left end. Tyree Wilson, right end. 3rd and 7. Wilson moves to left end, and Crosby slides into the interior. Malcolm comes in at right end, and Adam Butler plays D tackle alongside Crosby. Tyree Wilson blows up the right tackle, and Josh Dobbs just throws the ball away. Pass rush had a hell of a game in this one. It's just too bad that the offense didn't allow the pass rush and really just the defense in general to properly enjoy this game because they blew it, right? So it's just more back and forth, right? More punts, more punts. Finally, the Vikings get the ball. They drive down the field with 3 minutes left in the game. And they go down and they get a field goal right at the 2-minute mark. Okay, game on, I guess. 3-0, 2-minute drill. Let's see what you got, Aiden O'Connell. First play interception. And he just kind of like eyed down Devontae Adams, and this linebacker, Ivan Pace Jr., just dove for the ball, read it perfectly. he had a hell of a game and obviously finished it off with a big play, intercepting O'Connell for the game winner. And yeah, the Raiders fall to 5-8. They lose 3-0 again. Like, what the hell? And they are tied with the New York Jets, Chicago Bears, and their upcoming opponent, the LA Chargers. The Tennessee Titans also play tonight, Monday Night Football. They're 4-8. So if they were to win, which they're facing the Dolphins, so they shouldn't, suddenly the Raiders might be higher in the draft pick slot, because that's what I'm looking towards now. Really, I mean, you look at the offense and everything, it's like, I want a new quarterback.
I was just, while you were having technical difficulties, I was like going through the rest of the tweets that you had, and I was sort of giving my opinion on, like, quarterbacks to look into. Are there any college quarterback names that, if you could just provide like maybe 3 that you're looking into currently?
Yeah, I mean, the last note that I have for this section is, it just says, lastly, Jaden Daniels. Go get him. Pair him with a coaching staff that can actually go out there and win games. Right now, Jaden Daniels from LSU, he just won the Heisman Trophy. You want to talk about a quarterback that would fit perfectly with Devontae Adams' game? It's Jaden Daniels. He throws a beautiful deep ball. And oh, by the way, what I've been screaming for since Derek Carr was quarterback, he's mobile. He can run like a Lamar Jackson. Maybe not that good, but he's right there, right? He's right there. But also, if the Raiders were to lose out, there's always the possibility that they go all in, and perhaps they're not going to get the first pick, but the Bears are going to have the first pick. It's really up to the Bears, unless something miraculous happens and the Panthers win a couple games and the Patriots have the first pick, but they just beat the Steelers. I think the Bears are going to own the first pick, and it's up to them on whether they want to keep going with Justin Fields or not. If they don't want Justin Fields, the obvious candidate is the USC quarterback, Caleb Williams. Somehow, if the Bears go Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall, nobody trades up to first overall. Nobody gives them a high, a very high offer. I mean, if the Raiders were to get the right circumstance and I guess the right coaching staff and really feel like, hey, we need to go do this, they could trade up for Caleb Williams. He's absolutely a guy that is worth looking into, but I would rather trade up to like third overall and get Jaden Daniels. I'd rather earn the third overall pick and not have to trade up future compensation. But then there's also Drake May. I think if you want 3 guys that are worth looking into right now, I think those are the 3 names. And the fourth being, if you want to consider Caleb Williams unrealistic, the next name I'll give you is Michael Penix Jr. I don't really Penix with an X. Or Penix. It might be Penix. That might be the better way to pronounce it. You can think about Bo Nix or even Shadir Sanders. I don't know if that's Shadur, but I don't see it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Bo Nix can become something, but I also want to say he's like already 24, so he's kind of old coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Old, But yeah, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Now Drake May, I don't think he's very mobile. He's more of like he's kind of the pocket passer who projects to be really good. Like, honestly, I mean, maybe it's because he's from North Carolina. I'm pretty sure he is. He almost reminds me of Mitch Trubisky.
That's exactly where Mitch Trubisky came from, right?
Right. But in the sense of like coming out of last season, it was like, oh, this guy, he's going to be so good. Just wait and see. And it's like, I've watched him and I'm like, okay, I think you're projecting that he's going to be good. Whereas like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels have obvious talent,
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, my other questions for you, I've got two more, but we'll try to answer it quickly because we're sort of running out of time today. Um, I've seen a bunch of Raider fans say that it's time to put Garoppolo back in. Are you on that boat?
no,
I don't think the Raiders should put Garoppolo back in. I don't think you
yeah, I
can
don't.
risk him getting hurt and you being tied to that contract if you're trying to, move him off the team by that one deadline that
Yeah,
we talked about. Um,
yeah. I think you just let Aiden O'Connell play. Hopefully, I know this is weird, but hopefully he sucks and we
mhm.
lose out. Honestly, I want to earn the highest draft pick at this point. Now losing to the Vikings, that's official for me. I'm done.
It, it's simple. We killed the Batman. No.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to see O'Connell, but you still want to lose games, then I tell you, the Raiders have the perfect quarterback in the store. They've got Brian Hoyer right there. He's not going to cost you any money if he gets hurt.
Okay.
You use that guy. You don't put
Yeah,
in Jimmy for him to eventually get that injury, and then you're sort of got your hands tied with him no matter what.
yeah. I think maybe one of the tweets you might have put it up earlier, but I said something along the lines of these next 4 weeks, these last weeks of this season are not for building towards a playoff run. It is for figuring out who is worth keeping and who isn't. For me, Bo Hardigree is not getting it done for me. As of right now, Antonio Pierce is not getting it done for me. Champ Kelly, the interim general manager, I have big thoughts on him. You may have seen them if you showed the tweets. I think you keep him. I think my big thought for this team right now that I've had for a few weeks now is that the Raiders need to change it up. And what do I mean by change it up? The past two head coaches that were hired by Mark Davis were hired to be put in charge. They were paid the big bucks, right? They paid the big bucks. Go lead this team. I'm trusting you, Mark Davis says. John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, thanks. You know what I want is a guy who actually knows what he's doing and a general manager.
Are you frozen again?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. And I think Champ Kelly knows what he's doing. And also, my biggest thing is he has an absolute mastery of this roster. And he would be the type of guy that would decide, hey, I want to keep Patrick Graham. And maybe Mark Davis steps in and says, I want a new head coach, though. And Champ Kelly can say, okay, I'm going to go out and find us the new head coach. I'm going to go with a guy like Lou Anarumo. Oh, no, he's a defensive-minded coach. But maybe the Dolphins head or offensive coordinator Frank Smith. Or maybe if we're lucky, we can go after Ben Johnson from the Lions. Give me an offensive-minded head coach to pair with Patrick Graham and general manager Champ Kelly. Do not make the head coach the man in charge. The general manager needs to be in charge of personnel, not the head coach. That's been our problem. Make the general manager in charge of personnel. Have your head coach be in charge of the team, coaching the team. Let your play callers be in charge of calling plays. Your head coach, if he's offensive minded, sure, he can call plays, but leave the coordinating to the coordinators, leave the head coaching to the head coaches, or the one head coach. Personnel, stop making that in charge of the coach. That is not working for this team. Champ Kelly,
I've got an
general
interesting.
manager.
You can just say yes or no if you would be interested or intrigued by this name. How would you feel about Kellen Moore?
I guess I need to see more from the Chargers offense and how he goes with that because it seems like he inherited Staley's offense. Obviously, Staley is a defensive guy, but it didn't seem like Kellen Moore got enough time to really make his changes to the offense. He shows some promise, but I just don't see it for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at the end of the day, I want somebody who's probably who's really well known for, or maybe not, I shouldn't say well known, but has done a good job with quarterbacks because whoever this guy is going to bring in the next great quarterback for this team.
Jim
Harbaugh is obviously interesting. I have fear that if he were to be the guy, he would be in charge of personnel. And I don't want clashing heads with the front office. I want the front office to be in charge of that. But also, you would get Mark Davis would get in a bidding war with Michigan because he is currently ongoing contract talks with Michigan. The rumor is he wants north of $11 million per year. What was John Gruden getting per year?
Probably 10.
10. So now we're paying more for head coach. I don't know what we were paying Josh McDaniels, but he was overpaid as well. I'm not saying that Jim Harbaugh would be overpaid, but are we really going to do this again? And
I
more
would.
important, maybe, but you also still, again, you have to get in a bidding war with his alma mater, with the team that he's very likely to lead to the college football championship. Does he really want to leave? Maybe if he wins the championship, he's like, it's settled. I'm ready to go to the NFL. I've done what I came out to do. Let's go. It's possible. But you're still getting into a bidding war with Michigan. I don't think Mark Davis wants to do that, honestly. I think you need to change it up. It would be interesting, yes, but I think you got to put the general manager in charge. Maybe Mark Davis needs to stop getting in the way of hiring coaches and let a general manager do it. The last time he did that was Reggie McKenzie getting Dennis Allen, and it didn't work out. But also bear in mind, Reggie McKenzie had to rebuild that roster from the fucking ground up because Al Davis obliterated it from 2002 to 2010. Obliterated it. Cap hell because Jamarcus Russell and all these other players were overpaid. Reggie McKenzie came in and fixed that. Thank you, Reggie. What does Reggie get? John Gruden. And a year later, you're fired. And then John Gruden's in charge. What do we get? Rebuild. Let's trade Mac, Cooper. And then scandal. Then we get Josh McDaniels. Let's rebuild. Derek Carr's gone. But we're going to bring in Devontae Adams right before we kick out Derek Carr. And then, we're going to go with Patriots West, even though McDaniels kept saying, oh, no, I'm adaptable. This isn't going to be the Patriots. No, it was the Patriots. Your fucking plan was to get Tom Brady. You're an idiot. I'm done with head coaches being in charge of personnel. Champ Kelly. Again, he knows this roster. He knows its weaknesses. He knows what he needs to change. Bring in a great coach.